Good afternoon. It's 1 p.m. on a rainy Saturday. Would that the weather would get turn into a nice springtime times, but do you really want me to recite the poem about April flowers and showers? That's what this is about, I suppose. This is almost altogether specifically a brief video, and I keep saying brief, hoping that it will be brief, but it often is not. This is a brief video about what I'm beginning to call housekeeping and assignments. Another video will come out tomorrow, actually, which is the one I was supposed to get out to you late last week and was not able to do. And it will be brief too, quite frankly, so we can kind of bring ourselves together to move things through. And then as we move toward the last couple of weeks of the course, where to begin? Let's go with assignments first. A couple of you have spoken to me about this. I've had some great conversations with some of you, people whom I've never spoken to, nor have I actually met, although I regret that very much. Would that I have spoken to all of you? I haven't spoken to you yet. For heaven's sakes, make a date to talk to me on the phone. I won't keep you for long. It might be just nice to connect on that count to help you move through some things you probably don't even know that you don't know that you would need to know to be successful project leaders. I promise you that. So feel free to do that. However, don't try to do it this coming weekend, because this coming weekend, Grandpa is taking, I think, four of my seven. Yeah, I guess it's four of my seven grandchildren and their families to Mickey Mouse. I'll be back the Monday after Easter, I think. Just a very quick visit down. So you want to talk to me before that, I'll be happy to talk. I guess I'm leaving on a Thursday, so you want to talk to me over the next couple of days, that would be great. Or for heaven's sake, just wait until after that and say, Bernardo, I'd like to have 10 minutes with you. How about a conversation? And I'll be glad to do that. First point. Second point is, let's go back to the assignments. As I said to several of you, because there are so many things flying around in terms of assignments, that I don't blame you for saying, oh, have I done them all? Have I not done them all? Let's go with that issue first. I've put a couple of announcements into Canvas this morning, and I also sent I think 2 emails out. They're virtually the same things, the announcements and the emails, but I just want to catch all of you someplace so I would know that you have read them. So short story is that what I'm going to do is going to go right back to discussion week 1, and I'm going to release any of those artificial closeout dates. I don't know how to do that, so I'm have an email into St. John's to help me figure that out. So that if you have not responded to a discussion question, if you're concerned about getting the 3 points or not that's associated with those things, and I don't blame you for wanting to have that happen, for heaven's sakes, just go back into something that you think that you missed and see that you get that piece in. So that's the first thing you need to know. Second thing was a much longer email. And that email was about, and or announcement, that email was about several things. Things I think I may have taken for granted. If you've seen some of my emails from this past several days, I was getting very nervous that I wasn't saying anything from anybody, or very few things from very few people. And I thought perhaps with something I said, I offended somebody, or that folks have drifted away from the course, which obviously I wouldn't want to have happen for your own sake. So I went back to, as I said, I went back to Canvas. I went to Canvas Help. I went back to St. John's Help, and each of them assured me that I had posted things correctly, and so they were up there. And then, but at the end of that sentence is, I did put in those silly artificial due dates, and then when it closes out thing. I guess I was doing that. I don't like to do that, but usually I do that when I want to keep a class on track so they don't get overwhelmed with things as they move along. So I did put some due dates in, and some of them are closed out. So even if you wanted to go back in and check them, you can't, because it's closed out. So I'm going to open them all up. Now, if you want to get in today, or whenever I post this video, probably later today. If you wanted to get in today, and you weren't able to get in, then email me. Email me whatever you think you owe me. Okay. If you're not sure what you owe me, then you go into the assignments. I'm sorry, in two places. You go into assignments and you look for the discussion questions from week 1 through now, week 11, because this is week 11. Easy enough. If you, I think there are a couple of you who are missing some journal assignments, and I've graded all of them that I have so far, actually. 2 people I absolutely understand why they didn't do the journal assignments yet. And they have my blessing to begin to catch up to us, and that's just fine. So go back in there and take a look at them, because up to now, up to this very day, today is April 1st, and I'm not playing April Fool's Day things on you. Really you've had several discussion questions, pretty much one every week, and you've had less than several, but also several journal assignments. Not a whole lot of difference between them in some respects. And by the way, you're doing a great job with both. Real insights. I appreciate how you're taking the books to heart. I want to come back to that in a minute. Don't let me forget that. At any rate, they're all graded, the ones I have seen. If you haven't caught up to them, catch up to them, so we can all start from the same place as we move towards the end of the semester. And I'm still not sure what the end of the semester is. Pretty sure it is the first week in May. So it's about 5 weeks. And lost my train of thought. So what I was basically saying in this last video, or rather the last email, was that I'm not sure if everyone's looking at the videos. This one video I'm doing now, I am not sure whether you're looking at them or not, because that's kind of like my newscast for each week. And often I say some of the same things I say every week. I know that. And I also add in new things as well. And that there's 2 purposes of the videos, in my view. That's why I have a housekeeping video like this one is. And that's why the second one is more nearly geared to content. I don't know how many asynchronous classes you've had up to through now. I think a lot, from what I understand. And I don't know how the other professors are handling it. I presume they're handling it pretty much the way I was, and will. And that is, yes, you have readings. And I give you readings. I was giving you the 3 books at one point, and now we're really down to 2, and quite frankly, really 1. But for the moment, we're staying with 2. That would be the Kozer and the Fulham book, 2 books, where you are expected to respond to them by way of the journal assignments and a discussion question, potentially. But Bernardo teaches too. I teach in the other video. The other video picks up on the 2 books and adds in additional content, additional issues and skills that you need to become project leaders. So again, I don't want to make a blanket accusation. I just want to say that I sometimes get the idea you're not looking at all the videos. And these past several videos too have also kept some of the same links up there. And that was on purpose, but more specifically, the ones about needs assessment and root cause analyses. I left them there because you need to tap into those to come up with the different pieces of the final assignment. So, and then sometimes it's sprinkled in the agenda. You'll see other links, and you need to do those to not to answer the questions and get points. You need to do those in order to really get your muscles together, to be project leaders, to be eligible for the the building leader certification. I'm going to talk more about that as we get closer to the end of the semester. Got to do that. All right. So if you're not doing it, and they're there for you to go back to, as if they were a book. So please make sure you're looking at this video in the first place, which is kind of problematic if you haven't, if you don't open them in the first place. And the point I want to make is the agendas are always in the modules. I always post them 1 or 2 extra modules throughout the semester, and that's where the agendas are. Okay, so know that and work with that. If there's any kind of problem with that, let me know. But that's really where we're taking you from as far as that. Now, the other piece, I know I'm repeating myself here, and I began to see some good things today because I was able to open up the dates on the last 2 or 3 weeks worth of discussion questions up to a point, but not as far out as I wanted to do. Where as I've said to you several times, what I'm trying to do is get your muscle started uh, to be able to write an action plan and develop an action plan with your stakeholders, with your colleagues, so that you would have these skill set. This is a major skill set. I promise you, I can't prove it by research, but I can prove it because I've been around the block a few times. Most administrators don't know how to do this, he shouted sarcastically, I guess. They don't know how to do it. So they may give it to somebody else to do, but they don't really know what's invested in making an action plan work, be effective, and how to construct it in the first place. So the skills that you're beginning to acquire here are going to be great skills you're going to need to be project leaders, to be building leaders, more specifically. And as I mentioned to a student yesterday, and I thought I had said this early on, but here it comes. I'm not proud of what I'm going to say. I don't like when teachers did this to me back in the Fred Flintstone times. And when someone said, this will be on the test, and you paid more attention because it was going to be something you knew you needed to know to pass the stupid test. Well, you have a test to take. And it's not a stupid test, actually. It's a certification exam. And forget the money that you may have put into being part of this program. Forget the money. So what's more important is forget all the time you put into this to acquire the skills and competencies to be both a building leader and having a TESOL certification. You all know it's a great opportunity. I can't begin to emphasize that enough. But I'm coming from the side of the street about the leadership piece. I don't have a whole lot of skills in TESOL things, except how to implement programs about TESOL. And so you need to know how to do this. And again, the action plan that is the last assignment for the course, during the last day of the class, is your opportunity to begin to play it through. Yes, they are not going to be perfect. Believe me, I know that. But they're going to be a lot better than when you began to try to do one of these, because you've never seen, most of you anyway, never seen this approach. And so what I've tried to do is ease you into it. So each week I've been adding in one piece and then responding to what the piece was. So I know you know this, but to roll it back, I guess about 3 weeks ago, I said, frame your question, frame the issue. Tell me what the issue is. And I'll tell you whether I think you've nailed it. And within that, imply what your goal is. The next piece was the first strategy in every plan has to be a needs assessment. And I talked extensively about how to needs assess, the kinds of ways you can get the baseline data and opinions and points of view that people have about the issues that you're connected with. I tried to model it for you. I have a basic, and I also provided you with at least, I think, a PowerPoint and at least 2 videos that I recall that talk even more specifically about how to conduct a needs assessment. And your job was to tell me what needs assessment strategies you would use. I don't expect you to do the needs assessment because there's not enough time. But where you real leaders, you would need to do that. I forgot what I wanted to say before. I apologize. What I wanted to say was that the action plan design will be on the certification exam. Don't forget that. It won't be the question I'm giving you, but it'll be something like that. And call it an essay question in the cert exam, whatever you want to call it, but it's going to be heavily evaluated. All the more reasons for you to master these skills in order to satisfy the requirement, PSEL requirement too, of planning, and to demonstrate that you've got that in your toolkit. That's what I wanted to say before, and I wandered off the reservation about for a moment. So, as I said a moment ago, I took you to one, and I said to post your post the issue. And the next week I said, post one strategy, not 100, one. Now for the action plan due in 5 weeks, I'm going to look for 4 or 5 strategies. But right now, all I wanted was one so I could respond to them. Now, the ones that I've seen, and I didn't see them from all of you, I want to see maybe 2/3 of you so far. And it's not due actually literally until tomorrow. What I've seen is some pretty good strategies. What I've also seen, and this is a kind of a yes, but I've seen strategies that I would call short-term, thumb in the dike, quick fix strategies. And I've seen some deeper strategic strategies. And you don't know the difference with that all that much, but in 25 words or less, long-term is strategic. Generally, that's equated with 3 to 5 years worth of planning. I don't want you to do 5 years worth of planning. I want you to show that you can see how a plan with strategies can't all happen at once. They can't all tumble all over each other, how they need to be stretched meaningfully and effectively into a 3-year plan. That's why 5 strategies is what I'm looking for from each of you. And really, that's what we're driving as far as that's concerned. So this past week, and again, I responded to the ones I've seen, and I'm very pleased with what I've seen. I've given some feedback about that by phone to some folks and anyone else who's posted on the discussion side of the street. That's one piece. Now, the next piece is criteria, and that will bring me to the agenda. Now, the agenda isn't quite honed, so I may repost it, but right now I'm going to, where is it? Share the screen again. I know you've seen this 100 times. Don't go to sleep. Stay with me on this. When I say don't go to sleep, I might put myself to sleep sometimes. Yes, my children, when they go to sleep, when I'm giving them Bernardo's words of wisdom. So this is what next week's, starting tomorrow, next week's agenda. There it is. I see a mistake. And notice I put up that this is video 1. There'll be another video tomorrow, back some content pieces. This action plan attempts to, or rather this agenda, tries to capture all both the content and the housekeeping piece, although it is concentrating on the housekeeping and assignment piece. So once again, here we go. The same videos are up there. I just left them up because I thought there's going to be a video link up here. I haven't put it there yet. And these are the same videos I've posted about needs assessment and root cause analyses and SWOT charts and so forth. These others were examples of certain kinds of models of TESOL lesson design that you may want to, if you don't already know, may want to put into your toolkit. I also posted these 2 weeks ago, 2 change models. This will make more sense tomorrow, so I'm not going to beat it up all that much more right now. These are 2 change models. One is actually really is one, the McREL model. The McREL model, and there's also some commentary by Simon Sinek about change as well. That's much more broad. The McREL model is a specific way to look at change if you were leading it. Some great PLES principles in there. And then I'm going to introduce you to something altogether foreign the week after Easter to supplement that. So the goals were to say, okay, housekeeping, there will be no journal assignment for this week. It's Holy Week. A, B, it's half a week off anyway. So, and C, you deserve some time to marinate and the other things you have to do. So there is no journal assignment this week coming. There is a discussion question, though, and that's the one I just mentioned to you. I am reading it to you again. This discussion will be devoted to preparing for the last assignment. As stated last week, each of the next weeks will chunk the parts of the action plan in more depth so that you can integrate all the pieces along the way. This week's discussion question is about criteria for assessing strategies. Assessing strategies, not assess. Yeah, okay, I'll call it that. In other words, you post a strategy. Now we have to figure out how you'll know how it works, he shouted. I'll come to that more in a moment. So you need to tell me the same way you assess a student. I mean, before I forget my thought, you assess a child. I mean, this is the dangerous questions in some cases, but I don't think it applies to. I don't think any of you commit this sin. I don't think I ever did either. Come to think, hopefully, and that is when you go to forgive the word, an evaluation of a child, of a student, a grade, if you want to use that term. Do you always look at your little grade book and see where the zeros are, or what the average of the assignments were? I don't do that. I mean, I give a grade based on that as part of my assignment, my approach, but I'm going to consider the depth of thought. I'm going to consider whether people have played off each other, and for the most part, you have in responding to each other. Not all of you, but some of you have done it quite well. Those are the things I look for. Those are my criteria for assessing you. So if you were to say, I'm trying to remember something I saw somebody put up there, and I'm drawing a blank, but if you were to say one of your strategies after your needs assessment is here's a strategy. It's a pretty good one, actually, that you're going to set up a collegial circle with your staff. And you're going to help them come up with a goal of promoting literacy among the autistic children with their parents. Right? That's a tough strategy. Hard strategy to putting together. I know some of you have some pretty good ideas about that. Now the question is, how would you know whether it worked? I see the reading gets better. I'll accept that. I get notes from their parents commenting on what they did. That's a great strategy. It might not be practical, but it could be. I'm going to run a parents' night where the parent and the child are going to present what they've been reading together. I'm smiling. I kind of like that idea. I don't think I've ever seen that one. And then I'll know whether that goal is working or not. I just gave you 3 criteria. Now you want to take it a notch further. You could say with accuracy, with creativity, 4 out of 5 times. I'm not even pressing you on that, but that would be a way to do it. So in essence, what I'm saying is, pick one of your strategies, and then in the next box over, to be concrete, there's a column for criteria. What are the ways, plural, he said, plurals, what are the ways you would decide whether the strategy has worked? That's the discussion question. And up through about Wednesday, he smiled. I'll probably do it if I'm not on Space Mountain anyway, because I will bring my laptop with me. I'll respond. I'll say, well, that sounds pretty good. I think you need more, or that I'm not sure if that biggest issue often is whether the criteria idea matches what the strategy is. Sometimes they don't. Real quick story. I observed a teacher who was, it's a very long story, but I want to make it as brief as I can. I was just had a teacher. I just got promoted to a secondary level director of humanities, where I was managing. I was leading both the English and social studies departments, and to upgrade the instructional in both, because there were some issues about both departments. So one of the teachers came to me, and he had deplorable reason scores the year before. And I knew that, but I wasn't about even ready to try to investigate what that was about. The man came to me and said, I had really bad scores last year. And I don't know why, but I think I could use some of your help. So I said, okay, how about I come in next week and I will observe you. Okay, I won't write it up. I'll just come in and observe, and let's see how we get a conversation going. He says, great. I go into the class, and he had, I forget, this is a 10th grade class, I suppose, 25 kids in rows, and he basically said, okay, let's open to page 3. And he said, Johnny, in the first row, first seat, would you read the first paragraph? And Johnny read the first. This is 10th grade now. Picture this. Uh, and then Mary, would you read the second paragraph? And he basically would comment on what the kids were saying. He had a couple of questions that really weren't very deep, and the class was pretty much in la la land by about halfway through the class, halfway through the rows. Now the topic was about about ancient Greek architecture, and was talking about the kinds of columns that the Greeks had invented to hold up their temples. Why anybody would want to teach that is beyond me, but that's what the text was doing, and that's what he was doing with it. It was deadly. That's another story, actually. When the lesson was over, I went up to him and I said, okay, I said, so the goal of your lesson was to, that's a strategy. Your goal of your lesson was to identify or differentiate among the kinds of Greek columns. And he looked at me like I had 10 heads, and he said, "You wait about 10 seconds." He says,
"Okay, I found this on the web, friend," he said. "Check it out."
he waited about 10 seconds, then he said, yeah, that was my goal. P.S. He didn't know what his goal was. So his strategy was not even a strategy because didn't even think that he needed a strategy. The strategy was to use the textbook. That was it. So I said, all right, how would you know whether the students had mastered that goal? And he looked at me again. Now it's about 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time when you're having a conversation with somebody. And he said, well, I'm giving a test next week. I said, so you're giving a test about the Greek columns? He said, no, it's all about ancient Greece. So I said, and you're going to know whether this lesson worked from something that you tested for a week from now. He looked at me again. He says, he waited about 30 seconds more, and he said, you're not telling me I have to evaluate this lesson, are you? So I won't use the language I did use with him, although it was a very friendly conversation. I said, yeah, I am. How do you know whether this assignment worked for Johnny Jones and Mary Smith and, Fred Flintstone? How would you know? He says, I have to assess every lesson for every kid. I said, well, how would you know whether they're moving forward or not? He looked at me and then he said, that's hard. So I said, you're darn tootin', it's hard. It is hard. That's what you need to do in order to be assured that the students have mastered the material that you have. And now I come back to what you're trying to do, what I'm asking you to do, is to do the same thing. How would you know that the strategy you put in, it might be a 5-month strategy, a year-long strategy. And how are you going to assess that? Just to even make you a little bit more crazy, are you going to have formative strategies, criteria built in, and then summative? You all know that when you teach, especially those in elementary school, then you have formative strategies and summative strategies. Mid-course, mid-test, mid-period, along the way. Then you have the end of the road kinds of strategies. Suppose everybody did flunk that Greek test a week from now. Would he have to go back and reteach the whole course, the whole unit? Quite frankly, yes, except that he can't and he won't because he's got to teach the Romans. And so evaluation has its role in recognizing how well your plan works. In fact, it's really, really critical. And I'll talk more about that another day, but that's what this assignment is about. I'll also point out, I put this in last week's assignment agenda. I'm going to leave it up there, and that is, I understand that March 16th conference was terrific. Everyone I've spoken to has raved about what happened. I'm really pleased to hear that. The two people in this class blew the doors off the conference by their presentations, and I applaud them for it. And then quite a few of you, from what I can tell, also attended. So that's fantastic. So if you went, you satisfied the parent engagement piece, except I need to know how you got the word out for other people to potentially go. If they didn't go, that's not your fault. But I need to know how you put that together. So that's what that paragraph and whatever that color is in place. And all the rest of this is things you've seen before. And now we're up to really, just to clear it up, we're up to number 9. This is where we are right now, as of this week. Now I'm going to change the color. What color do you want? That's the color somebody just told me telepathically. That's where we are right now. And that's what you have to do. And that would be this third column in the template. You had a goal, or strategies. Now I'm asking you, how will you evaluate those strategies? Okay. And the rest of these we'll take care of in a different way down the line. And with that, I'm going to cut. This is more brief than usual, isn't it? I'm going to cut this video short, and then tomorrow, after bagels or someplace in the morning, I'm going to come back to this, and that would be the issues of change theory that cut across Kozer and Fulham, but more specifically talk about change models, and they are up here. I mean, McCrell and Cynic, and then I'm going to begin to do some other things that will make your eyes cross. All right. So, hopefully I'll remember to say this tomorrow. For those of you who celebrate the Holy Week, please, happy Easter, I guess is the best way to put it. For those of you who celebrate Passover, happy Passover. And then, so I'll see you in quotes the following week. I'm not so sure how fast that video will be up somewhere after Space Mountain. Well, maybe I'll do that one this week too, just to get it in the hopper. But you needn't figure I will do that. You needn't worry about that for now. And with that, I am signing off. And what I do now with these Zoom videos is I have to upload it, and then I have to drop it into YouTube, and then post the link back to the agenda I already showed you. So it's a little bit time consuming. Please keep in touch. One way or another, he smiled. You can tin cans and string, Zooms, tom-toms, postcards, Easter cards, whatever you want to do. I like our chocolate bunnies. Take care.